Good morning. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. I am your host, John McGinley. I'm joined by Tony Haggerty this morning. Hamish still on his wee holiday over in Australia. He will be back tomorrow. But we are here to chat all the latest news coming out of Celtic Park in the wake of a comfortable win over Hibs in the Scottish Cup on Sunday. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. The Celtic Way, as you know, is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Tony, how are you feeling on this Monday morning?
It's a happy Monday, isn't it, John? Just treble jeopardy. They coped with that very well. I think it was controlled dominance, wasn't it? To be fair,
yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
never felt that Hibs were threatening enough. I said the one thing you gave Hibs credit for was that they stayed in the game for as long as they did. But their best player was their goalkeeper, wasn't he? So had Celtic won by more, then I don't think anybody would have quibbled about that. I just think the whole jeopardy nature of it was that Celtic were 1-0 ahead for a long spell and finally put it to bed when Daizen Maeda scored. But I always felt pretty comfortable, John. I always felt a second goal would come. And and you have to say, you can understand why Hibs are on or embarked on that fabulous run. They're very resolute, very well organised and disciplined. But I expected more from them, John.
Yeah.
Attacking sense. After what happened at Easter Road, I understand they can't go gung-ho, but I was a bit disappointed. I thought they were going to come at Celtic and have a real go, but I think their game plan was to stay in the game for as long as they could. And whilst they didn't manage.
I thought it was a pretty dominant performance on Celtic. I thought they started the match in the manner that Brendan Rodgers has been speaking about. In terms of being aggressive and right in Hibs' faces. And I agree that they obviously stayed in the game from a scoreline perspective until towards the end of the match. But I wasn't too troubled. Kasper Schmeichel, that early save, but that was from, in my book, a dodgy throw-in. So I wasn't putting too much stock into that either. And I just felt Celtic controlled the game pretty well. And in that second half, were just pretty professional, just went about the business. Again, I don't think it was ever going to be a blow-away performance. I think the jeopardy of the cup and all that means that I think Celtic are obviously aware that Hibs could, potentially have some joy in the counter-attack. And the same will be next week against Rangers. I mean, that's the way they'll want to play against us as well. That's kind of what Rodgers was saying after the match. So it's interesting for Celtic at the moment, but I thought they did a thoroughly professional job yesterday. And obviously, Daizen Maeda again. I mean, the plaudits that he gets on this show and every other Celtic show and every other Scottish football show is remarkable. But he deserves everything that comes his way because, again, I think Rodgers called his anticipation incredible after the match, and it is. He's just the first at every single second ball. It seems like when he's sniffing around the box.
I mentioned to Ryan yesterday, 6-yard box, Daizen's domain. That's what I'm going to rename it because he's lightning quick, John. He's not just quick. I mean, the blinking of an eye. How many times have you seen him shut down a goalkeeper who maybe thinks he's got time to, way up a smash up the park, and he's on him in a flash? How many times has he done that run where he's nipped in front of the fullback who's about to clear it, and he's even got a couple of penalties from stuff like that? He nipped in at Easter Road where the goalkeeper hesitated to bring Celtic back into the match. That's just what he does. He's just always switched on. And his anticipation for that goal was brilliant, but 27 for the season, it's remarkable. And I think, I actually think he's embarrassed by the song, isn't he? The Champs Tequila, when you saw his face yesterday, or maybe he was just a bit bewildered by what it was, but everybody loves singing that. And I saw a tweet yesterday saying, can you imagine the Celtic supporters in unison singing that next week if he scores against Rangers?
Exactly. That's going to become the new hit, I think. And it's going to become, when Celtic win trophies or win league titles and there's all these scenes from the dressing room, that is the one that these players are going to be singing, and they're going to be embarrassing Daizen Maeda in that dressing room. They're all going to be singing it, and they're all going to be doing the Maeda at the end. I love his new song. I think it's genius. I think it's simple, catchy. I think everyone can get behind it. Everyone remembers it, and it's got that kind of feel-good peak to it, at the end. And I'm happy for him. I'm really happy for him, Tony.
It's a great tune anyway, regardless. just tagging Maeda onto it is just hat tip to whoever thought of that and made it catch on. It is just genius, as you say, and it's a player who I think deserves something like that. And fair play to him, as I say, he kind of looked a bit bewildered by it all yesterday, but even Jota was killing himself laughing, singing it as well, wasn't he? There was some great footage when he was about to take the applause of the crowd, and I love that. As you say, it's great for the team spirit and camaraderie. And I think Brendan Rodgers also said that, see, if you're a young player and you want a role model, he's your man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, undoubtedly.
He from everything that he does, from the pressing as well, but he's such a popular guy, and I love the interviews that he does, because he just kids on. He doesn't speak English and just says he's very happy at all times, and I think that's become it must be a running joke in the dressing room, that every time Maeda's pulled in, he just sort of says he's very happy and doesn't say too much else, because you see the players kind of laughing and stuff when he's saying it. So I can only imagine he's at it a wee bit. But again, that adds to his charm, doesn't it? And the fact that he's a very popular guy amongst his fellow professionals and amongst the supporters. But 27 goals for the season is brilliant. And it was a tap-in at the end of the day, but it's just the way it came about. He was just first to react to something, because Hibs had a defender there and the goalkeeper who both could have reacted to it, but nope. As I say, it was in Daizen's domain, 6-yard box. If there's a loose ball, then on your head be it, because if he's around, then he's making sure it's his.
Another good impact from the players coming off the bench. I thought Luke McCowan was obviously really impressive when he came on. Daizen Maeda gets his goal, and then Yang is, he misses a chance, but he's involved in the build-up to Celtic's second goal as well.
Don't know how he missed that chance. I'm quite honest. Him and Maeda, the one he sliced wide, but yeah, we'll let them off. But yeah, John, and that's what you want, isn't it? 3 guys coming on, and the 3 of them combining for the second goal, which puts it beyond any shadow of a doubt the result. And I was happy for Maeda as well. That's 14 for the season, which is not a bad return, considering his game time and the fact that lots of people still remain to be convinced by him fully. But I thought he took that goal really well yesterday, and really delighted with Yang and McCowan's contribution, because I think if you're looking ahead, it's going to be the same team that starts against Rangers, isn't it? Because it's Rodgers' go-to team, isn't it? It's the strongest team. And even Kuhn looked more on it yesterday, didn't he?
I thought so, especially in the first half. I felt he did well on the ball.
Rightly. My only quibble was the one that Hatate played through to him, and the Kuhn of old would have raced through and scored, rather than let the defender get a touch.
That's what I would say about Hibs. I thought they did defend pretty well in the match at points, and some of their last-ditch defending or their last tackles, I thought their defending was pretty good in the game, so that was something Celtic had to combat. Obviously, a boost for Yang this morning. Tony called up to the South Korean national team for their next 2 matches. The first time in over a year, I think he's had a call-up. He does have a few caps. He has come off the bench from time to time for them under a previous regime. I think it was Jurgen Klinsmann. But his bright form for Celtic has clearly caught the eye of the South Korean national team, and he'll be jetting off now, and that'll be a further boost to his confidence, won't it?
Oh, good on him, and it's just been good news week for him, hasn't it? Brendan Rodgers let us know that his girlfriend was in town, and he turned it on for her last week, and great, and just they say good luck comes in kind of clusters, doesn't it? So I'm delighted for the player himself, because I think lots of Celtic supporters willed him to do well, but they just felt that he might be best served going out on loan and learning his trade elsewhere. But he's turned that narrative on its head, and he's clearly turned the narrative on its head because the managers had faith in him and believed him. And that's the only person he needs to impress, John. And through that purple patch that he's having, he's also impressed the international selectors for South Korea. So good on him. You have to say, on current form, he deserves that. It's up to him now, because the managers clearly said to him, look, listen to me, I'll get you back into the national team. I'll get you playing regular minutes here, but you have to do X, Y, and Z. And he's did that. And I think most people were saying that the biggest problem with him was he could beat a player lovely, but his end product wasn't there, the delivery wasn't there, and the numbers in terms of goals and assists wasn't there. It's there now. He's starting to produce that, and every time he comes on, he's making things happen. And it was a brilliant pass to Luke McCowan for the nice wee shunt to him for Luke McCowan to set up Daizen Maeda. So, and that's what you want. As I say, he should have had another goal. Goodness knows how he didn't, but he's done enough to warrant and merit that international call-up. So you have to say well done to Yang. But also, again, and I go back to it, it's a masterstroke from the manager in terms of man management, isn't it? This is a people a couple of months ago, we're saying, nah, not got it. Maybe, as I say, best served going out on loan. I was one of those questioning him myself, saying, I need more, and that's just the way I am. I don't speak for myself, but I speak for myself and what I was seeing with Yang, and I've since been told that I'm not a member of the Yang gang because I can't jump on the train. But I was going my eye test and what I was seeing, John. You know what I mean? I was seeing him beat a player lovely, but do nothing with the ball. So I was kind of like, but I caveated that with there was a reason why he was still there, and the likes of Lewis Palmer and Mikey Johnson had been let go. So I kept saying the manager sees something, he lays a lot of stock in training, watching him every day. So I was willing to persevere with that, and like the manager has, and he's reaping the reward. So I'm happy with that.
And if you want to know exactly why Yang's improving or the areas of his game that are improving, just beyond his end product, we've got analysis going up on the website later today from our analyst, Stuart Ross. So that gives an insight into why he's got more end product. Is he getting into better positioning? Just there's a lot of good stuff in there. So I would recommend that if people want to find out more about why Yang is getting better at Celtic. A comment from Sean McLaren here. He says, in a less emphatic way than others, that was one of our best performances of the season for me. Very controlled and measured against a dangerous team. Look, I think we've played some excellent games this season. I understand what Sean is saying, though, in the sense of Celtic played the occasion yesterday. They understood the occasion. They understood the peril in the game. They understood Hibs' threats. They counteracted those threats and imposed themselves on the game. And so, in a way, that's impressive in its own right, even if the scoreline isn't racked up. And so I kind of understand what Sean's getting at there.
Yeah, I think there was the measured performance of it all, John. No, couldn't say they weren't as clinical because the Hibs goalkeeper had a cracking game. He makes a great save from Callum McGregor, low down, got a really strong hand to it. Cracking save from Hatate as well. I mean, he was the busier of the two goalkeepers. As you say, Joe Hart had that one save to make. But I understand what Sean's saying as well. I enjoyed it yesterday. I thought it was still an intriguing cup tie right up till the end. Because despite the fact that I never saw Hibs scoring, it was still 1-0 for a long extended period in the game, and you were waiting for Celtic to put it to bed. So I have to say but I still enjoyed the way Celtic went about their business. These games are fraught. You are a bounce of the ball away. You mentioned it, John. Would VAR have intervened had Kieran Bowie scored with that throw-in that was taking yards away from... I know the commentary team of Michael Stewart and Rory Hamilton discussed it. Would they have got involved?
I actually don't know the rules on that. I don't think I've ever seen that. Someone in the chat might have seen a game in some obscure league in Europe that might give us the answer, but I don't think I quite know the rules on that. For me, it was a pretty clear-cut case of I don't know if you'd call it a foul throw, but it was clearly well in advance of where the ball was, where it went, leading directly to a goal, catches the Celtic defence out. So for me, it should have been looked at. I don't know whether the rules would have dictated that it should have been looked at, but it's that was an interesting one, and I'm just glad it didn't get in because we didn't need any more VR drama. And it was interesting. I don't know if you picked this up, Tony, but the nature of Celtic's second goal, it was kind of fitting that it was like a byline cutback.
Yes,
the ball was on the line. It was kind of fitting that Celtic got their second goal that way this time.
I would love to have seen had VAR get involved in that one. Celtic would clearly have got the decision. To be fair, I'm just looking at the comments. I think I see Joe Hart made a save. He clearly wasn't playing yesterday.
Joe Hart can do a lot of things.
Forgive me, exactly. I don't know what game. That's a classic. He's like, what game were you watching? Casper Michael, of course. So my apologies for that, guys. There's a couple of people in the comments laughing. Yeah, indeed. Yes, I know it was Casper Michael. Sorry, boys and girls. I clearly had it in my head. Joe Hart, but there you go.
Again, good morning to everyone in the chat. Apologies for my voice today. I'm a little bit under the weather. I've got my voice is getting stressed. So if you see me coughing, I'm trying to mute the mic as much as possible. But that is just how it works out. Sadly, on a Monday morning for me. Right, Tony. Celtic's attention now obviously turns to Rangers at the weekend.
Oh yeah.
Rodgers was quite up. Sometimes I think the managers after games don't talk about the next game, or especially when it's a derby game, they kind of play it down until their press conference build up. But I thought Brendan Rodgers was quite interested in what he said about facing Rangers. I think he was asked, Brendan Rodgers doesn't like using words like revenge. He was asked about that. And he said, this is what he said about the Ibrox game, about getting revenge for that. He said, we were well beat on the day. Rangers stole our game that day. That's normally how we play and what we do, but they took it from us and deserved the win. But we will be ready for the demands of that game. I said before, I never really had the team really like that in any of those games. So the demands that are needed to play in that game, we will be ready for them next week, like we weren't in the last game. Interesting. It's clear what he thinks about not only the last performance, but he's going to have his team well drilled for this derby at the weekend.
3 words. He got this. He got this. He's like, that's been drummed into them that's unacceptable. What happened at Ibrox is unacceptable in any shape or form for a Rangers game. It's a once in a lifetime, a managerial lifetime experience for him in a derby game with his players. It won't happen again. And I say that after it as well. I didn't think Celtic were capable of playing like that, especially in a derby game. So, and he mentioned it. I mean, he hasn't mentioned the word revenge, but you can read between the lines, and he's thinking, no danger, no chance, this ain't happening again. And also, you've got the added bonus that you're at home, and there will be a small contingent of Rangers fans there, so that will add to the elements and the mix. But listen, I think every Celtic supporter is eagerly anticipating this, because in their mind they want to right that wrong of Ibrox in January, that poor start to the new year, when you have to admit, and I agree with the manager, they were well beaten. Rangers did steal their game that day, and they were worthy winners, and the scoreline could have been more, actually, to be fair. I think Celtic had one shot at goal, didn't they, if memory serves. So, yeah, and I think that's what upped the manager more than anything. I think he can handle getting beaten those kind of matches. He's not lost many of them, has he? 2?
No. His record against Rangers speaks for itself, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. So, it's an alien concept to him, but he can handle getting beaten matches as long as Celtic are the best representation of themselves. And, whatever happens, you lose to a decision, a bounce of the ball, a screamer or whatever, but he cannot. I don't think he could accept that level of performance at Ibrox that day, which was just meek, wasn't it? It was poor, to say the least. But just listening to him yesterday, that was my immediate takeaway. I was just like, he got this. Now, that's no guarantee
of course not,
of a result, but I think those players will be left in no uncertain terms when they take to the field next Sunday that, you owe the people that are coming to watch you, I think, will be the message. You owe the Celtic supporters a performance. And to wrap it up in style, he likes this expression, burst through the tape, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Right to the finishing line. He's used it a few times. So I think that's be one of the games where Celtic or Rodgers and Celtic players will look to burst through the tape and do it in impressive style if they can.
Obviously, been changes at Rangers since we last played them. He was asked about, are you expecting a different kind of Rangers just with moving to Barry Ferguson and his coaching team from the Philip Clement. Rodgers was pretty measured, obviously. He said, I think when I analyse Rangers, I see the team that is still doing what they've done all season, been very good in Europe, obviously refs in the Fenerbahce result that they got last week, but they're probably a wee bit inconsistent domestically. The strength of their team is in the counter-attack. It's not when other teams are camped in it and connecting the game, so we have to be mindful of that. Barry will come with passion and professionalism and want to get a result here, but I do as well. So it'll be a great game. We'll look forward to it, and as I said, when it arrives, it'll be brilliant. There we go.
He's just saying, remember, you've got to come here.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to Turkey and get a result, very impressive, and you're worth that. But coming here's a different kettle of fish altogether. It's a different challenge altogether against a team. And he's telling you, I've said before, sometimes he can be cryptic, can be guarded. He's telling you, we'll be pumped for this. You know, we'll be at it. We'll be bang at it. You're going to have to be bang at it as well, because you know I mean, he is saying didn't enjoy the Ibrox experience, and I want a role reversal this time. I don't want you to enjoy the Parkhead experience. And I'm, you know, as I say, I always think, you know, there was that game a couple of seasons ago when Kyogo scored at Ibrox, the winner, the 1-0 game. Mm-hmm. Celtic were depleted, and mm-hmm. all week the doom and gloom brigade were out. John Saint said they were going to lose heavily 3 and 4-0 because they had a central pairing of Gustav Lagerbielke and Liam Scales, and all week I said Rodgers will have a game plan. Celtic will win this, and people were saying you're blind. This is just blind faith and it's blind loyalty, and it wasn't. And that's when I get back to talking to people and saying, listen to what the manager's saying. He sometimes spells it out. He signposts at other times a bit more cryptic. He can be a wee bit comedic at times as well, leave you hanging. But listen to what the guy's saying here. And as you say as well, not many managers would address the Rangers game in those terms.
I don't think they would. I've always seen, you know, when the week before in the post match, the managers often bat away the derby question. Yeah. They don't want to talk about it until, you know, they have to do the obligatory day duties and the build up on the Friday. So it was interesting for me that he was just so happy to speak about it. And he'll want to make this week all about the derby. Obviously, another narrative in the game, ahead of the game is, you know, Celtic have a full week of preparation while Rangers obviously have their European stuff on Thursday. So that, you think, would serve Celtic well as well. Yeah,
and also you look at the manager. Well, you read the manager's comments, you hear them. That's the laser focus now, John. There was between now and the end of the season, they had 5 real huge big matches. The 2 Rangers games, home and away, Hibs game yesterday, and hopefully the 2 games, the semi-final and the final of the Scottish Cup. Those are the ones that are real, you know, power games, as you would call them, in this run-in. And so there was a laser focus for the Hibs game because they had all week to prepare for that. They came out the traps really quickly, and it was controlled and exerted dominance, wasn't it? Maybe not reflected in the scoreline, but it was a performance where you thought, fantastic. You know, they were bang at it. And then the manager saying, we're going to do the same next week. You know, come in matches if you can, but we're looking forward to it. And we're mindful of the fact that the last time we played you, and the narratives that have sprung up around that, you know, the gap isn't as big and all that kind of stuff. And what if, you know, so I think that irks him a wee bit. You know, he's always, you know, he's a big narrative man, isn't he? And sometimes he brings up when he bristles at things that are said at times and defends his team and his players and defends himself. So I think he's mindful of that. But yeah, and the Thursday night game with Rangers, you know, I saw Jose Mourinho kind of stare down the camera like Brian Clough did many years ago when he was talking about Nottingham Forest when they were going to Cologne and said, I hope you're not going to write us off or be stupid enough to write us off. And Jose Mourinho did the same. He's kind of said, it's not finished.
I mean, we'll see. I think I was not impressed with it.
No, I wasn't impressed by them at all either. And I, like you, I think it is finished because I believe Rangers will score again. Mm-hmm. They'll have to do something to turn that round. But it's Jose Mourinho, and he's managerial forte, isn't it, doing things like that. So we shall see. But again, it'll be a game where Rangers will have to put a lot of effort.
Yeah.
And it's these things are energy sapping psychologically and physically and emotionally. So we shall see what happens.
Back to Hampden then for the Scottish Cup semi-final. If you're wondering, the Scottish Cup semi-final draw is this evening after Livingston play St Johnstone in the final quarter-final. The winner of that tie will join Celtic, Aberdeen and Hearts in the semi-final draw. Decent lineup, and I mean Aberdeen will always fancy their chance at Hampden. Never seem to do much there. Hearts obviously they'll fancy winning the trophy this year, but Celtic are red hot favourites, of course. Tony, is there any team you'd prefer out of that bunch? Would you be hoping to get one of Livingston or St Johnstone?
Not in the slightest. I'll take MD, John. You've got to play them all, haven't you? But you just play who's in front. Yeah, I don't have any preference. My only preference in any draw is always to play Rangers as early as possible. Some people say, no, wait till the last. No, I'll play them anywhere, home or away. It doesn't bother me. I always, whenever a draw's on live on the telly, I always want Rangers. Because usually you're going to have to play them at some point. So you know what I mean? It's
Tony's starting Derby week in a very bold way. Is the message bring on the Rangers, Tony? Is this how we're starting the week?
But it's true. You can ask my father every time, and you'll be like, "Do you want to bring on the Rangers?" Because you're going to have to play them at some point. Normally, in most cup competition, and it's usually in the latter stages. I always think in the earlier stages it's slightly more palatable if, in the highly unlikely event, certainly recently, that you would lose a tie like that. But I'm always wanting. So the fact that they're not in a draw doesn't bother me, because I just think if you can't beat any of the teams that are left in the competition, then you'll not deserve to win it, John. And that's no arrogance or, I'm really confident in this group of players and manager to deliver now. As I say, yesterday was one of those ties where, you were up against a team who'd strung a really good run together, and that's where all the jeopardy came in. They'd beaten you in your last league game, so you were very mindful of that. So I just think they can now relax a wee bit on it, and even relax heading into, Sunday's game as well. You're 16 clear. You are trying to finish this league with aplomb. Dare we say it? Finish it in the Celtic way. In the manner that the supporters are accustomed to, seeing some wonderful football at times. So I'm hoping that that's what happens now, and they do put on the afterburners and they show a bit of style in the remaining games. I think everybody would love to see that.
And Rodgers' point as well was that they were obviously in a very fortuitous position the last time they played Ibrox. They're in an even better position now, but he's not expecting the same complacency from the team. And he said as well in his press conference yesterday, sometimes you need a wee setback to refocus the mind and kind of work towards the shared goal. So it's going to be an interesting week. It's going to be an interesting derby, interesting cup draw tonight. Just to finish, Tony, I think the Scotland squad gets announced tomorrow. Are we expecting a wee call-up for Luke McCowan, or is that still a way down the line? Steve Clarke isn't the most... He's quite restrictive with his Scotland selections, but do you think Luke McCowan's going to earn a wee nod?
I think, like Yang being recalled to the South Korea team, I think Luke McCowan, if he wasn't in the squad, one, he would be surprised, and two, if he is, then he's fully deserving of it. I think this is a player who, understands his role at Celtic, that he might be playing bit parts here and there in the odd start, but he hasn't let anybody down, and he is a player who the Scotland manager should be watching. I remember speaking to former Dundee assistant Dave Mackay immediately after Luke McCowan signed for Celtic, the day after he signed on the deadline day, and Dave Mackay said to me, "This guy will play for Scotland." And I was like, "That's a bold claim, Dave." He says, "I'm telling you," he says, "this guy will not be content to play a bit part. He'll want to make an immediate impact." He said he'll find his feet. He says, and once he does, he says Celtic have a player in their hands. And I remember texting him and saying, "You could be right." And he was like, "Watch him." So I'm hoping that Steve Clarke sees the merit in bringing somebody like Luke McCowan into the Scotland squad, because I think his confidence would grow from that as well. And he is a player, again, who has did the hard yards, John. and he's fully deserving of an international call-up. Not just because he plays for Celtic, but because he's a good footballer.
Yeah.
He's naturally
talented. He's a good footballer to watch. He puts the joy into football for me. He's an entertainer, but he's effective as well. He's not wasteful in possession. I don't feel like he's actually pretty efficient in possession as much as I've seen anybody. I know there's times when a player like that will give away the ball from time to time, but I think Luke McCowan is pretty tidy with the ball. So I'd love to see him get a call up, but whether he will or not remains to be seen.
And how well is he fitted into that company though, John? Taking that step up, he looks as if he was born to play there. So, and the manager will be preaching all of this gospel to him as well. So, I just think he'll be fully deserving of it, and I've got my fingers crossed for him.
Right, that's going to wrap it up for us today. I'm off to sip on a lem sip. Tony, you're off. You'll be back later in the week. As I say, Hamish will be back on the channel tomorrow. He's enjoying his time in Australia. There'll be lots to talk about this week, I'm sure. Thanks to everyone who's joined us in the chat. The good thing about the chat now, it's all subscribers now. So if you're seeing people in the chat, they're all subscribed to the channel, and that's what we like. So thanks to everyone who's speaking in the chat, because it means that you're subscribed to the channel, and we really, really appreciate that. So if you like what we do or you enjoy our shows, definitely subscribe, and then you can get involved in the live chat. YouTube subscriptions are free. There's nothing you need to pay for, so it's basically just a click of the button and you can get involved in the thriving community in the chat. You enjoy this chat, don't you, Tony?
Oh, I love a bit of chat. I can't beat it. Yeah, good. One of my friends is in the chat. He's a subscriber, Peter, from Gibraltar. So it's good to keep in touch with him. So there you go. He lets me know what's happening in sunny Gibraltar. It's usually sunny in Gibraltar, so not the man.
Okay, thanks everyone. We'll be back tomorrow with more Celtic chat. Goodbye.